everybody, welcome back to Art a la Carte, and I am currently uploading the video where I created this sketch and kind of talked about different places in my art. And that's my printer. So I'm currently uploading the video where I talk about the creation process and a couple different places in my art process that artwork dies. So far we've made it past the third stage. And we're moving into creating the final piece, which is boding well for this little guy. So if you haven't seen that video and you want to find out those 3 different places that I find my art struggles to progress to the next level, I'll put the link in the description box or up here in the little corner. You can check it out. But let's go ahead and jump into this. So for this video, I'm going to talk about how do I get this onto physical art paper without printing it off. And obviously I have printed this sketch off, but if I were to take water to this, the ink is water soluble. So one I like to use is to use a light box or light table, light pad. This is another step that you have to think about is what do you want to do? If I wanted to do this picture with markers, I'm going to use a smoother paper. This right here is the type of paper that I like to use. It's a Hammermill premium cardstock. It's a pretty tough beast. This is what I generally use. I also in the past have used this, though I find I don't like this Express It blending card as much as I like the Hammermill. And this might change. I might change my mind. I really want to do this piece in watercolor. If I was going to do this in Copic, I could do the line art on my computer and print it off. And Copic markers love printer ink. They don't mess with it. But I want to do this in watercolor, so I'm going to grab some watercolor paper. My favorite brand tends to be the Arches. I like this for really nice pieces. It's got some good texture. It's super thick. So as you can see, this is a really thick watercolor paper, but when I put it over the light box, like magic, you can see what's on the other side. Yay! And I'm going to go ahead and trace this in here. Quick tip with this is to tape your pieces down so that you don't move your paper and then have to realign everything. But I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly and then come back and we'll talk about the next step. Of tips that I will give for this part is, one, I am doing this in pencil. I'm then going to decide if I want to actually ink this in or if I want to go in straight with watercolor. But I'm just, with the pencil, just marking where things are. I'm not trying to get into that hyper detail for the final line art. I'll do that later if I decide to ink this in. I'm just kind of getting the elements in there. The other tip I have is to draw really lightly. Now I'm using a graphite pencil that's actually water soluble because I want to ink this in. I'm pretty sure I want the graphite to erase out of here, but there will always be a little bit that will stick in here, and so using a water soluble graphite pencil will just help to change those, mix back in with the water when I'm done. The only problem with that is that it tends to taint your whites a little bit. So I do want to erase as much of this out as I can, but it's just kind of a fail-safe. Another question I get asked quite a lot is, especially for left-handed artists, how do you not smudge your artwork? That's one of the downsides to working in graphite, is that it's very easy to smear it into your paper. And I don't know why a lot of left-handed artists ask this, because it's the same issue with right-handed artists. Your hand moves across this, and I always forget to do it. So you can see I was working down here and then realized, oops. Try to work on the artwork that's on the opposite side of your dominant hand. So for me, I try to work on the right-hand side of the paper and then move left. That way I'm not dragging my hand over graphite. But when you're working with watercolor, you want to avoid as much contact as you possibly can. So I tend to teach my hand how to float. That can be challenging. You can give yourself an art brace, which is a tool that you can kind of rest your hand on. You often see they're like long stick things. You can use the back of a paintbrush. I've even used chopsticks, or you can actually get a painter brace that has kind of like a little rubber thing on the end of it so it doesn't scooch around. And that will help you to keep your hands steady. That's also good if you have shaky hands, to kind of give yourself something to brace on too. It's funny, when I started this video, I thought this would be kind of a fun topic, but then as I was editing it, I realized I'd actually done a video similar to this, where I talked about the art process, and I had just gotten into talking about where your artwork can fail, and then I was going to continue the art piece in the next video, and there's no next video. That piece of art went to the art graveyard. So it literally an example of what it's like to have failed. I don't want to say failed, because any art that you do, there's no fail to it if you're learning. But there's just some art that you just lose your motivation. Just don't ever come to the fruition being done pieces. In fact, some of my favorite things to do is to look through my art graveyard. I don't throw a lot of my pieces away. I have a little cabinet that I keep all of my art in, and sometimes I'll go through it and find inspiration for new art pieces that didn't work out the first time, but maybe I'm ready to give it another go, or it'll inspire a completely brand new piece. So as much as you can, don't throw your art away. Keep it for a rainy day. It can really help you with art block if you struggle with that. All right, so there we have our finished piece sketched in. So again, you can see that I have pretty light detail, and then I have my sketch here. And I'm going to keep this with me because right now this is what holds me to my art. This doesn't. This looks like kind of a Mod Podge of mess. There's still a little bit that it makes me excited to work with this. I'm seeing the colors that I want to use. I'm seeing the tone. So we're still looking good. But I'm going to keep this with me for inspiration. Also, it's going to help me define out the details, because some of the work here was a little bit hard to see what was going on, and I have the branch going in there, and so I want to be able to catch all of that. I think I got all my birds. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got my birds in there, and I'm going to keep that here. So the next phase is to ink this in. For inking in, there are a lot of options. One is to just take a regular black ink pen and ink this in black. A third option is to go in with different colored ink pens. So these are the Copic multi-liners, and they come in a variety of colors. And I have actually most of the colors that I would need. But once you commit to this, then you've committed to your color scheme. So only if you really know how this picture is going to turn out would I go with coloring your line art. The third option is to use just a soft gray. Now this gray is almost too soft. It's if I were to draw on here, you could kind of see it, so I would be able to see a little bit on here. This one is a warmer gray. And so those are my two options. These are at size 0.3, so they're not a super fine tip. They should hold up fairly well even with this rough paper. It's not ideal to use these pens on rough paper because it does wear them down and all of that. So if you only have a few of these, just know to be very gentle with your hand on this. So I'm going to begin to ink this in. I'm going to start off light. If I don't like this, then I'll switch to black. But I'm going to start off light because you can always go darker. It's just really hard to go from dark to light. Also, to help keeping smudging from this, I'm going to keep my paper close. I'm going to work from this side and work over. And I'll rest my hand on here so that I will rub on this paper, not on this paper. Because you have oils in your hands too, and that can affect how your watercolors apply to your paper. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to take an eraser and just lightly erase this up so that I can just barely see it myself. And I call it ghosting. I generally don't do it too much when I'm doing videos because it's really hard for you guys to see what I'm doing, but I'm taking you on the process of what I do, not teaching you what to do. Does that make sense? I don't know. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take my gummy eraser. I'm just going to kind of very lightly pull up all of that work that I did. And I'll just do a section at a time. With inking, it is super important to take your time and be patient, because this is where you can make a mistake, and if you make that mistake, then there's no going back. And with that, and many hours later, we have finished the initial ink in process. So yeah, this paper definitely does a number on this pen. I don't think it'll ever be the same again, but well worth it. I'm still loving this. I'm still loving the look between the birds. So yeah, I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is color. Whoa. And that's where I'm going to stop this video, and I'm going to keep working, but I don't want to make these videos super long with me blabbering on. I'll put links down to my Instagram and social media accounts in the description box below, so you can follow me over there. And as always, God bless you guys. Keep being arty, creative. Don't give up on your pieces, and don't get frustrated when your pieces are in a process or they're progressing. So this is all part of the deal. Anyway,